Akira Kurosawa is responsible for introducing Japanese cinema to the Western civilization. Kurosawa's 1950 film, Rashomon, the filmmaker's first international release and the second Japanese talkie ever to be delivered commercially in America, was widely successful, generated critical and international attention for Kurosawa, and led to the introduction of more Western imported Japanese films. But although Rashomon fascinated Japanese and American audiences alike, it would not be until 4 years later that Kurosawa's following international release, Seven Samurai, would be extremely important for Kurosawa's career in the popularization of Japanese cinema in America, influencing many great films and directors for copious years to come. The almost 3.5-hour Jidaigeki film featured action sequences mixed in with humor and romance and filled with excitement and suspense at all corners, releasing the previous stereotypes seen through the otherwise slow international Japanese releases and redirecting it towards Kurosawa's more familiarized Western style. Through a comparative analysis of the film's initial reviews and more modern critical examinations, as well as an in-depth look into the film's impactful characteristics on film culture throughout time, this video will illustrate how Kurosawa's Seven Samurai has grown into the most arguably influential powerhouse in cinema history. Seven Samurai was a film based on the Sengoku period of the year 1586. The story begins with a small farming village that had previous interactions with thieving bandits. After one farmer overhears the bandits' newest plan of raiding the village for harvesting crops, community members decide to take precautionary measures by looking for protection. The village does not have any money though, so their only hope in finding protection is by venturing out of the village to hire unemployed samurai who will only work for food. During their search, the farmers find Kanbei, a struggling old veteran samurai who accepts the task and helps with the recruitment of 6 more samurai, all of which hone different skills and levels of experience. After trust is acquired between the village and their new guardians, the samurai prepare for the inevitable battle that awaits. The first battle consists of 3 bandits, 2 of which are killed by the samurai, leaving the remaining bandit to be captured, forced to give information about the bandit's camp location, and then killed. The samurai use this information to track down the bandit's location and burn down their camp. After the first battle, several attacks by the bandits in the village ensue, only this time with more powerful weapons, resulting in many deaths of bandits, villagers, and 4 samurai. The thief leader is subsequently killed during the final battle, and the village celebrates as the remaining 3 samurai stand near the graves of their fallen comrades, as Kanbei states. Before diving into how impactful Seven Samurai is on modern-day film culture, it is important to look at how the film was perceived during the time of its initial release. With the lengthy production time that took over a year to shoot and a budget that ran well over its original limit, Seven Samurai had become the subject of conversation in Japan well before its final proclamation. When post-production ultimately concluded, Toho Studios released the high-budget Seven Samurai for public viewing in various theaters throughout the country. That year, Seven Samurai would become Japan's top domestic box office hit, accumulating over twice the production costs and continually gaining revenue for years to follow. Japanese audiences and critics alike thought highly of the film, as it was ranked 3rd on the best Japanese films of the year in 1954. Seven Samurai also won the Silver Lion Award at the Venice Film Festival that same year. In 1956, international distribution of Seven Samurai found its way into the United States. Under a new alternative title in America, The Magnificent Seven, the film was cut down by the original 3.5-hour mark to 2.5 hours, shaving off multiple scenes to appeal better to a foreign audience. Critical reviews of the film began to sprout up, showing a similar positive response to that of Japanese audiences. Admiration for the film was definitely shown in the 1956 Motion Picture Daily magazine's review, as J. Lawrence stated, "The fine, spirited acting, the interesting situations, the epic conception of the whole makes it one of the finest pictures the Japanese has sent us thus far." But although foreign reviews were quite positive, there were also a fair share of censor. According to New York Times writer Bosley Crowther in his 1956 review of The Magnificent Seven, director Kurosawa has plastered a wealth of rich detail which brilliantly illuminates his characters and the kind of action in which they are involved, but then goes on to state, the film is much too long for comfort with the story it has to tell. The director is annoyingly repetitious, and his use of modern music leads you to wonder whether this picture is more authentic to its period of culture than is any other average American Western film. The length of the film, even when sliced down by 1 hour, was a popular critic disapproval along with slow-paced sequences, with reviews praising acting performances, production value, and framework the most. The film, garnering positive critiques from Japanese and American audiences alike, came down to both familiar and innovative characteristics the film had presented to each culture. The more exciting portrayal of samurai mixed with attributes from Hollywood cinema did not send an audience into a mindful culture shock frenzy, but instead eased the viewer into the unfamiliar film traits. Crowther discusses this in his article by proclaiming Seven Samurai of having a hard, realistic Western style, with film characteristics sparking the touches that would do honor to American filmmaker John Ford. A few years after Seven Samurai had been released, the beginning of its influences on the industry began to quickly develop, which in turn would spread among different parts throughout film history. The first and most obvious was the American adaptation of Seven Samurai titled The Magnificent Seven, not to be confused with the same title previously mentioned, a 1960s film directed by John Sturges, who recreated Kurosawa's piece into an old western. The actor Yul Brynner claimed that he immediately realized the potential for a remake when he saw the Kurosawa film. Not only would this film be among a long list of remakes of Seven Samurai, but many films have been inspired by Seven Samurai and will continue to in the future. So why does Kurosawa's simple framework continuously fill the minds of so many filmmakers to the point of recreation and reproduction? Well, at the time Seven Samurai was released, no Jidaigeki film had one particular feature: the samurai as a heroic figure. That one aspect of the film provided Kurosawa with the construction of a grand action film without the sacrifice of human portrayal, which was a complete re-examination of action films from a completely new direction. The samurai were ignoring their warrior ethic to take on the job. They were acting out of character, and previous samurai the villagers ask are depicted as arrogant since their job is to fight for the warlord and not the little people, and that's what makes the Seven Samurai heroic. The film's aspects of heroic self-sacrifice and sympathy for the underdog would not only be an innovation for film at the time, but this new element of team gathering for the hope of achieving a particular goal would be a complete game changer in the foundation of plot. Seven Samurai has also inspired cinema with its technical elements and particular narrative features which would come into discussion later on during critical evaluations of the film. In particular, how the use of visual elements drive the story, and how character development works in a naturalistic and individualistic way. The complex action sequences with peasants, bandits, samurai, and galloping horses moving in different directions in the rain and mud at multiple planes of the shot could not be repeated twice in the same manner. The multiple camera technique therefore captured the dynamic action without breaking them down into different segments. Seven Samurai uses this length creatively, not merely to boorish egos. We view them as individuals with their own reason for being there. We get to know them naturally, the way we get to know our friends, by putting in the time. When the bandits finally do attack, our hearts are in our throats. We know the defenders so well, and we can sense that not everyone will survive. Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai is responsible for the influence of many different facets of international cinema. The innovative Jidaigeki film provided a brand new element in plot and used technical and narrative characteristics to create a stunning experience. After discussing initial reviews and modern critical examinations of the film, Seven Samurai has been a popular influence on film culture since its domestic and foreign releases, as well as a spectacular film that many audiences and critics have enjoyed throughout film history.